I was watching the first video I saw of you guys was beautifully called "Interviewing Bin Laden's Neighbors." Great title, by the way. But you were on the ground because you guys go out, like we'll get into everything, but you go out and do videos like at the same time in different places, which also I think is really smart. So each of you goes one-on-one. But you were going into Pakistan specifically to Abbottabad for this video of the many you made out there to talk to the people who live right by where the Navy SEALs, apparently I have to say allegedly took down Bin Laden. What was that like when you walk up to that moment of truth area?
I mean, it was surreal. It was funny. All over Pakistan, no one believes that Bin Laden was killed. We didn't meet, I don't know if we met a single person in all of Pakistan who believed Bin Laden was actually killed. No. But, you know, there it's like I mean, they don't believe anything. The government's so corrupt. There's been so much meddling in the country. So it's just like natural. They don't believe anything. Going there, I mean, honestly, it was disappointing. We thought it would still be there. And we literally just drove in and got out. And the compound's just gone.
Yeah.
They didn't want it to become like a pilgrimage site.
It's like, fuck, I thought this was, we wanted the house tour.
We were going to try to climb over it. We were going to do the whole thing, and it didn't work. But.
Imagine you walk in there like, welcome to Abbottabad. This is,
right. The gift shop in the front. By the way, just went to Jeff Epstein's compound in Palm Beach. Same thing. Obliterated it.
Yes, I did
changed
know
the
that.
address.
Oh, really?
But yes, back to Osama.
Yeah, it was wild. It was cool. And the people there are super friendly. On the one hand, like they're hardcore Al Qaeda support. They ride for Al Qaeda.
Ride or die for Al Qaeda.
Ride or die. But like in the same breath, the guy was like, "Yeah, we think Osama's a hero." And he's like, "You want tea?" I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
And you're a white guy, which they also had to respect the fact that you speak their language. You speak Urdu.
Yeah, they appreciated that.
Did they teach you that at Langley, or was that before?
that was actually at Bin Laden's compound. I was there with him.
They taught you right there. Right.
No, actually, my first job out of college was in India. So I lived in India for a year. And I lived in a Muslim neighborhood where they spoke Urdu.
No
kidding.
So
I learned it there.
All right. What was that job specifically? Or are you not allowed to say?
CIA. No. It was just a media. It was like a media thing there. Essentially, like the UN would do research about whatever projects they're doing in India, and then they would give it to our company, and we would turn it into like brochures or books or whatever kind of thing.
Very cool.
I just want to live abroad, hence the job.
Yeah, that's the good excuse to get there. And then you get inside the culture, you broaden your horizons, as they say, and somehow you end up landing here, which we'll get to. But basically, I didn't know this, and you mentioned it there in the beginning of your answer, that Pakistan is a country where no one believes anything. It's basically like a giant 4chan, but, you know.
Right.
I guess over there.
If a country were 4chan, Pakistan would be it.
So, like, why is that specifically? You went into it in this video, which we'll have your guys' channel linked down below. Everyone check it out. It's great. But why is that? Like, what's the history there with them thinking that nothing is true?
Okay, I mean, the country was founded in, I might get some of the exact things wrong, but founded in 1940s.
If you do, they're going to hit you in the comments.
Oh, they will.
Right.
Dude, also Pakistan, they go deep on YouTube. So I think 1947, it was founded, split off from India. The founding father, Jinnah, died right after. And then the first president, I believe the first president, was assassinated. No one knows why. Since then, no leader of the country's finished their term fairly. You've had all these different assassinations, political figures mysteriously die. And I think the most notorious one back in the 80s, when the U.S. was doing the whole jihad in Afghanistan against the Soviets, and that was going on. Right. The dictator of Pakistan, right when the war was ending in Afghanistan, he got on a plane with the U.S. ambassador and it exploded. To this day, it's never been solved. No one knows why. And it's happened over and over again.
Max.
Turbulence.
Planes just go down.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
They do.
So yeah, it's just one thing after another. I mean, people there, they die. And you have CIA meddling for sure, but you also have Taliban, Al Qaeda. I mean, there's so much stuff going on. It's just a crazy place politically. So
yeah. Now, what was obviously you had spent time in India. You speak the language that would help you go there. But what made you want it? Like, where did the idea come from? Like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Abbottabad. Let's go to the scene of the crime. Talk to Osama's, bin people.
Dude, so that trip was the first one we did for the channel. We did some stuff in the UK early on, but really that was the first international trip we'd done. And we wanted to broaden out from just doing the kind of political type stuff we're doing in the US to getting more out there and doing that around the world. When we got to Pakistan, we did a few things. We did a number of videos that are kind of more like cultural, and
They were awesome. I watched them.
I think they were cool, but we didn't feel like it was really what we set out to do. Like we love the newsy angle of things. So we went to Peshawar on the border with Afghanistan, and there everyone talks about Al Qaeda, talk about the Taliban, and we just got the idea, go to Abbottabad. So drove up there, did that. It was honestly, of all the videos we shot on that trip, it was the easiest to do. We just drove the car up. People are just in Pakistan. People are just doing nothing everywhere. Yeah. So you pull up, you get out of the car, and some guy walks up, and he's just like, he's like, "What's up, guys?" And it's like, "Oh, we're here about Bin Laden." He's like, "Oh, Bin Laden's a hero," and then the conversation goes from there.
Did anyone find it interesting that you believed he was actually killed there? Did they ask for your take on it, or were they just
nobody? They took for granted that I would think he wasn't killed. And to be honest, I certainly think he was killed. I think if I had my money on it, I think he was killed there. The fact that they never put a picture out is like, I mean, it's fodder for this kind of stuff.
That's a big mistake.
And that's not even new, right? I mean, from the time they did it, I think everyone was like, at first, everyone's like, oh yeah, they killed him. But then when people started asking questions, it was like, well, there was no picture, there was no evidence.
Right.
But now you do have the Navy SEALs coming out now and, writing the books and doing all this kind of stuff about it.
Yeah, which they even argue over that, by the way. They're like, oh, who killed? I'm like, guys, I'm not. Listen, I'm from Jersey. We're not getting involved in this. I don't care who killed him. I'm glad he's dead. But I think they were so, I mean, it's hard to put yourself in their shoes, but they were so afraid that anything would be used as political fodder that they did things to not let that happen that creates political fodder.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
What's funny is hearing the dudes in Pakistan having like their own Obama conspiracy theories.
Oh no.
Like they say that Obama made up the killing to get reelected, and they have like all these different, again, everything there, nothing is simple. Like you talk to people there, politics, nothing is as it seems. Everything is whatever. It's like if you took any kind of conspiracy type thinking in the US and just extrapolate it 100%. So nothing is actually, the people there, they say the Taliban are actually pro-women's rights and they're only doing this to negotiate with the US. And it's crazy. I mean, nothing is as it seems. And some of it's probably true, but a lot of it's definitely kooky. I don't know.
You keeping a straight face though was no, seriously, like it's funny, but it was really impressive to me because I'm seeing, and what's being said live because you speak the language. I'm seeing the subtitles come up. Joe and me were sitting there watching. I'm seeing the subtitles come up. I'm like, like laughing the whole time because you'd be like, yeah. So what do you think of 9/11? They're like, didn't happen. Oh, and then you like do the cut to like them holding up Oriental rugs with like the towers. Yeah. I'm like, oh my god. But they're so. It struck me as not your typical what you'd see on the news of like people burning effigies in the street and screaming, death to America or something like that. Totally. These look like the guys who run your bodega. And I'm talking about the one that they're actually friendly at, right? They were like, hey, yeah, you want some tea? Awesome. Yeah, no, I don't like America, but you're cool. Well, they're like, what?
Dude, the anti-Americanism is so much different than people think, right? Like you go around the world and like, I mean, a lot of places, they do love America. I think that's also a misconception, like that everyone hates America. It's not true. Like, again, I lived in India. You go to India, they just want to come here. I mean, everyone. A lot of places like Pakistan, Serbia, Russia, they all hate the American government, yet they love meeting Americans, right? And it's not this outward hostility. They don't really give a shit. I mean, but there's like a latent thing in their head of like, oh, the U.S. runs the world. Yeah. And they just kind of think that. Yeah. And the U.S., whatever kind of thing they have come out of that. But it's not like it's hostility. And when they always show those videos of the flag burnings and the, burning the effigies, that happens. But I mean, those guys, the people who do that are not representative of the average person in Pakistan who is intensely anti-American. But
to your knowledge, I didn't check this before. Had anyone really ever done a video like that where they went to the neighborhood and talked to people who were there?
Vice went right when it happened, right after it happened. Vice
Pre-Soros.
Pre-Soros Vice. Pre-Soros Vice.
Gotta throw that out
there. Watch this underground sex party at Bin Laden's compound, blurred out, where they do drugs.
It was like Osama Bin Wankin when they found all that.
Yeah.
No, they went there, but it was in the compound. I think it must have been weeks after it happened, if that. And they got kicked out. I mean, the compound was still there. The security told them to leave, and then they went to like the university in Abbottabad and talked to people. That was all I've seen. I don't know if anything else has gone.
Were you on Twitter that night when that was happening? Either of you guys?
Not really.
Think I was.
I remember this because the Phillies were playing the Mets on Sunday Night Baseball.
And they announced it live, and everyone went crazy.
Yeah, and there was a guy who was like he looked like your neighbor, like this perfectly normal, like kind of friendly, like his profile picture was like a selfie of someone who's a boomer and doesn't know how to take a selfie, who was like live tweeting the whole thing. There are helicopters above. And then like the next tweet, like, they have landed, one just exploded. and this was going on for like 40 minutes or something like that. He's like, there are men getting out. And I'm like, no one's No one thought to like they're a mile from like Pakistan's West Point. I'd say they're not West Pointing too well up there. Like what the f, you know?
Right.
Dude, one of the interesting things when you talk to people who are more educated in Pakistan, the really interesting question is the role the Pakistan's government played in what went down. And that when we talked to a guy who was a pretty respected journalist there and off the record, he told us that he knew people in the Pakistani military who told him that they were working with the Americans on the whole thing. They had him there. They were keeping tabs on him, and then they gave the Americans the go-ahead. That goes against what I've heard from people in D.C. and everything in the U.S. I find it kind of hard to believe, but that's like the more interesting debate. I think it's almost certain that he was either killed there or died before. But that discussion of like whether or not Pakistan had anything, a lot of people think that too. Yeah. When in Afghanistan, in the mountains, hiding out, no one saw him forever, and then everything we know now is coming through what the government puts out there. So I think he likely was killed in Abbottabad, but it's also possible that something else happened. Who knows? But.
The thing that, obviously you can't trust what the government says on a lot of stuff. I think we know that. Right. However, and it's right to question a lot of things. This is one I've never bought into, though, because you had literally the dev crew guys there. They're all there. Like these, have you met these guys before?
No.
Hard. Okay? Yeah. They weren't voting for Clinton in 2016. I'll put it that way. Right? So I think if something that big went down like that, look, maybe you could blackmail every guy there, tie their kid up in a basement and tell them they're never going to see him again. I don't know. But something about that, just the way they are, I doubt that so much. I really do think we got him there. I think we just, like I said, overthought how to do the aftermath. I mean, the biggest thing, we didn't mention this, but the burying him at sea, that was dumb. There was no, like, I've replayed that one in my head a million times. I'm like, I don't know who thought of that one. Bad idea. Like,
what was the rationale?
They didn't want a gravesite.
Huh.
So I'm like, couldn't you bury him under Langley or something?
Right.
Pick a better spot.
Put him right next to the forgotten soldier, Arlington Cemetery, Osama Bin Laden.
Right, maybe not that close, but you know what I mean. Nowhere that no one's going to make a shrine.
Right.
One thing that's funny about it is they say, like, the U.S. is like, they gave him a proper Muslim burial.
Yeah.
That was nice of them.
Okay. Like, they went in, they killed him, they took his body, they did the whole thing politely, and they dropped him. No, that's definitely not how it went down.
Yeah, in Zero Dark 30, they're like showing the imam like doing this.
Exactly.
He's going down. I'm like,
exactly.
All right, who wrote that?
Yeah.
They're like, make sure you have the imam bowing properly. It's like, okay. But it's strange because that feels like so long ago. So much has happened, and yet that's only 14 years ago. A little over 14 years ago that happened, and this guy who had perpetuated an attack right here, hypothetically, I guess, was, if we're going to talk like that, was on the run for 10 years, and it's an insane manhunt, and then finally you get him. And you get him in a different sovereign nation where, to your point about some of the guys you talk to in government, there could be some hindsight 2020 there. But also, like, you probably had a lot of people in there working against the United States as well, who might have been pro him, which doesn't mean the whole government was, by the way. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But geopolitics is very complicated.
Yeah, it is.
Totally. The 14-year ago thing is spot on. And it's also one of those moments, one of the few in our lifetimes. Obviously, 9/11 was the chief one, but where it united the country. I mean, it sent chills down your spine watching the compilation of the different venues reacting, including Sunday Night Baseball, to the announcement of his death. And I remember in school, your conservative friend, even though it was a big win for Obama, everyone was pumped. And it was like one of those moments where, without turning into some feel-good sport, like it felt great. Like that moment of unity, they're so rare. So there's also that side of it.
Well, then it was just 7-8 years later when they killed Baghdadi.
Yeah,
he died like a dog.
Baghdadi is dead. Dead like a dog.
Slightly different style,
Yes. That's one of my favorite cut-up compilations ever. The Obama on Trump. It's better than any rap song you'll ever hear.
It's unreal. He died like a dog. And as Shane Gill said, he was doing the commentaries. If like you can imagine him in the Situation Room, and it just being like the most epic, like immersive experience, and just seeing it play out, just no clue. But that was quite an experience.
There's a book. Have you heard of a book called The Exile?
No.
It was written by these two British journalists and like investigative journalists, and they essentially wrote this they've done a few amazing books on like Pakistan type stuff, terrorism, nuclear stuff.
The Exile.
The Exile. And they tracked Bin Laden's family in exile like the whole time from 2001 through 2011. It's fascinating. It's just like
That's right up my alley.
Yeah, it's great. It's long, but it's like, I mean, it's a page turner. It's awesome stuff.
He has one son in Britain who's married to like an older lady who's like a doppelganger of him. You ever seen this?
Really?
Guy?
No.
Yeah. Can we?
I knew one of the.
He had a lot of sons. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy was, he didn't like rubbers, but
Put up numbers.
you know,
Yeah, he didn't.
Can we type in Bin Laden son Britain, and I'll know when I see a picture if it's him because he's got 40 sons. I don't know if this is gonna be enough.
Did he change his name? Is he like Tommy Bin Laden now? He just changed his name to some.
No, but that's him.
Wow.
Like, yeah, you see the resemblance?
Yeah.
there?
Dude, him with the perm or whatever he's got going on.
I
Yeah,
know.
the
He looks
perm.
like a Dodgers fan in the top right picture. He's got a unique look. I love this.
It's ready to throw hands.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, he wasn't. He left his father when he was young and was like,
Wow.
I want nothing to do with this. And you know what? I got a lot of empathy for that. You don't get to choose where you're born.
Yeah.
Who you're born to. I mean, Woody Harrelson's dad was like a serial killer.
Yeah.
I love
Dude,
Woody Harrelson.
Insane.
You know? So,
Insane.
it's crazy, but also, how much have you guys pulled on the thread of like Osama's dad, Mohammed bin Laden? You ever looked at that?
I've read some stuff about him. I mean, he was big time. I mean, in Saudi, they're like the family.
Yep.
They're like, I mean, I know in Mecca they built the huge complex, the most luxurious hotel in Mecca is them.
Yep.
I mean, all over the country.
And then he went to did he go to Oxford? He went to one of the prep schools in England, right? Osama did,
Did he?
or
don't
maybe
think
I'm
so. I don't know.
mistaken. Okay,
Osama.
Possibly
Some of
not.
the kids probably did.
okay,
so,
maybe
you
it
know.
was Osama bin Laden's son. I
Yeah,
could be
can we do Osama
mistaken.
Bin Laden education.
Yeah, that
I mean, he was a nepo baby. Let's call it what it is. You know, Osama didn't have to go get it.
maybe not. Maybe it wasn't. You know, I could be. This
Education
would be.
at Kabul Al Aziz University. I'm
That
gonna guess
doesn't sound
that could
British.
be in the UK today.
You know who I'm thinking? Maybe I'm thinking of Saddam Hussein. That might be it. Honestly,
I don't think so.
Bashar
No, I think
al-Assad.
Bashar al-Assad.
That's who you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Bashar
Is it
was
not his
there.
son?
Yeah, Bashar was in Britain, and then he met his wife. She's like a British like eye doctor or something.
She worked
Did
for.
I make that up, Joe? Is that Asma al-Assad?
Went to Damascus University.
Can you go to
He-
Asma al-Assad real quick?
Ozma was a banker, and Bashar was an eye doctor, I believe.
King's College London.
Yeah, King's.
Okay.
I didn't totally make it up.
Now known as King Abdulaziz University.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. King's College is now Islamabad. Anyway, so
Yeah.
it's interesting though because I think Muhammad had. I want to say he had like 50 some kids or something like that, and Osama was just one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have 50 kids, you might have one that's a serial killer. It's high odds at that point. You know what I mean?
Didn't get a lot of paternal attention at home.
No.
I mean, a lot of the guys who were engaged with Al Qaeda and that stuff early on. I mean, they were wealthy. I mean, like God, what's the guy's name who took over after Osama, the Egyptian doctor?
Oh, al-Zawahiri.
Yeah, he was a doctor. I mean, these guys.
Brilliant guy.
There were people who knew that they saw stuff going on in the world they didn't like, and they had the money and the means to do something about it.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people sympathized with them were too poor or too whatever, whereas Osama was sitting there with all his money and nothing better, a nepo baby and nothing better
Yeah.
to do. So he went out and did it.
We just got Zawahiri 2 years ago.
Yeah, which is
Think
crazy.
about that.
Yeah.
That motherfucker was the cockroach to end all cockroaches. He lived through every era.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about it on this podcast. Like, we never got al-Zawahiri. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. He was obviously all these people have some sort of religious dogma where they bastardize the religion for their own means politically and whatever. That's a whole separate thing. But once you remove like the crazy gene in there as like as a thinker and strategist, unfortunately, he was very effective. And we could not get him. And he was able to navigate for Al-Qaeda that time period when ISIS really took over.
Yeah.
Because, Al-Qaeda, bad as they were, ISIS came up, they're like, yo,
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah.
We ain't like that.
Right.
You know, they're a little crazy for us. So you had the most extreme dogma reaching so many people around the world, and Al-Qaeda was able to survive through that and continue. And now, obviously, we've seen the remnants of that come through in Syria and what's happening there. And that, unfortunately, is because at some level, they have some people that are bad, but they're unfortunately effective leaders.
Well, and when they're in each of these places, it's a power vacuum, right? And it's like, what do people want? They want authority. I mean, you talk to people in Pakistan and the tribal areas along the border with Afghanistan. All they want is safety. Yes. And they are deeply religious, but their number one priority is having safety and not being extorted by the police on a daily basis or whatever happens. And then these guys come along and they say, oh, well, we have our own justice system. We're not going to take your money. And for whatever you want to say about the jihadists, they're definitely not in it for the money. So that's, you know, I mean, but in each of these places, Somalia, it's the same thing. I mean, there's still Al-Shabaab runs half the country there. Yeah. So you like it's West Africa, Mali, all these places, it's the same kind of thing. Lack of authority, horrible governance, tons of poverty, and then these guys take over, and it still happens.
Did you get to ask these guys at all about the fact that it's never the leaders who strap on the suicide vest or do the missions? They just always send them.
Dude, in Pakistan, everyone we talk to, they don't believe, and I'm not exaggerating, they don't believe that any of these people who blew themselves up were actually Islamic terrorists.
What do they think?
They think they're Jewish terrorists?
Jewish.
Come on.
No way.
Jewish, Indian, CIA. If you look up now, so like right now there's a big issue in Pakistan with like the Baloch insurgency, Balochistan. They want to carve it out, make their own country. They believe that they believe they're all funded by India. There's some evidence that India is involved with this a little bit, but they believe Israel is in there blowing shit up in Western Pakistan, whatever. And you ask people like, why would they do that? Don't you think
all of them? Right. They think for all of them.
Not one person we spoke to, and we talked to, I mean, hundreds of people across the country, ranging from educated to not. Now, I don't want to say obviously if you go and talk to like really Western-minded people or not even Western, educated people over there, you're gonna, I'd say, I don't know what percentage, a large percentage of them isn't gonna agree with what I just said, but I mean, most people in Pakistan are not educated, right?
You're talking to the people on the ground. That's important. Yeah. You're talking to the masses.
You ask them, well, what about that? And they'll say spies. They'll say CIA. I mean, you just name it. I mean, it's deflecting on everything. And then when you say, well, don't you think there's an issue with radical Islam? Well, they're not Muslims. They're CIA, Indian, Israeli.
I have no doubt, by the way, that there are false flags by organizations like this, the ones you mentioned, and other ones we're missing from around the world that include using allegedly like Islamic terrorists that really aren't. I have no doubt about that. Yeah. But when you're like, oh, that's all of them every time, it's like, man, can I play you some tape of the Ayatollah talking about, you know, all these people are sending out there to fucking blow themselves up? Like, that's not fake. No. It's just strange because that's why I love channels like what you guys are doing, because you're actually going there on the ground. And like I said, you speak their language too. You can really understand it, and you do a great job of like bringing some of it home to us where, you know, you try to put yourselves in the shoes of someone who has never been to school before or lives in the mountains and doesn't have a TV or all these things, right? That has grown up, maybe they're 18 years old and they've grown up in the post 9/11 era and this is what they hear. And then you see how normal they are as a person. You have to think to yourself, would I be the same way? Maybe.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. I think also hearing the history is fascinating. Someone who knows virtually very little about Pakistan's history, but that has to create some sort of psychosis in your mind where you are just so fundamentally, so instinctively distrustful of any Western narrative, even the most basic truths, even something captured on video. It's all sort of some elaborate scheme to frame you, and you just have no reason to believe them. You have resentment. You have all these underlying feelings that would make you viscerally say, this has got to be fake. Anything that makes us look bad, we're framed. But that does sort of also undermine anyone who's having this holy shit moment right now of, wait, can we trust the accepted Osama Bin Laden narrative, given that everyone on the ground is just, it does sort of undermine their worldview. Not to suggest that there aren't a lot of false moments, but that does sort of show that, no, this is like a fundamental, this is not fact specific. This is very much generalized distrust.
Totally. And I'd say that the other thing you deal with there is people refuse to or are terrified to criticize Islam. So they think that talking about this stuff and believing it, I mean, a lot of people definitely, there's a bit of an, I don't want to comment too much, but I would say one way to look at it would be like a bit of an insecurity about it, where if you acknowledge these issues, you're then saying it's not a perfect faith and all this and that, and you're opening yourself up to either a lot of trouble or they don't want to go there with their own faith or whatever it is. But there's that whole like faith aspect of it that complicates it. And it'd be the same thing, I'm sure, if you went to some like extremely conservative Christian place in here and you said, what about this, this, and this? You know, when people have are in that kind of world, it's very difficult to criticize it at all. Like, and it's no different there. I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people in the world use religion, whatever it may be, for good, and I think that's a great thing. There is then a subset percentage, you pick your religion, where people bastardize it and use it for power, and then sometimes they will get the people who are trying to use it for good to then have to fall in line under whatever this is right here. And whether it's Islam, whether it's Judaism, whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, Hindu, I don't give a fuck what it is. Like, it makes it so self-defeating to me, and it makes me cynical about it, because it's like, you know, we all got one thing in common. We're all going to die at some point. And the second thing we have in common is we all don't fucking really know what happens afterwards. So why do we have to have these ancient texts that just, you're either fully on the team or not, to divide us? You look at world history, that's what causes the majority of wars. It's a crazy thing that we're talking about this in 2025, but we are.
Well, also, whenever it interweaves with government, that's when it becomes especially bad. And you even look at the worst sins in Christianity's resume, when you sort of think of the major critiques of Christianity, and they're almost all related to sort of governmental claims to religion that are just, whether it's Constantine and the Roman Empire, whether it was the conquistadors, whether it was the Crusades, every sort of ill committed in the name of Christianity was done by government.
Yep.
And even in Jesus, I always think of the fact that the groups he went after the most were the Pharisees and were the clergy. Essentially, anyone who was in position of power, who was in the temple. Who did he go after the most? It wasn't the Roman centurions. It wasn't the Samaritans. It was the people who held positions of religious power that had governmental authority even. And so you think about today, if you think about, for example, this is a hot topic, but sort of attitudes toward Judaism or anti-Semitism or whatever, a lot of it's really directed at a government.
Right.
And similarly, I think with Islam, where it gets trickier is when it's a theocratic state acting on behalf of Islam and not the individuals who, you know, many of whom we traveled, like we went to the Arab majority community in Dearborn, Michigan, and there's no place I'd rather want to keep my bike unlocked in America. You know, or it's up there. Like, I would not, now would I want to raise a daughter? That's where I guess it, but like there is definitely an element of like, whenever it gets interwoven with power, that's where like the crazy shit happens.
And you should be able to criticize some things too. Like, different cultures around the world are different, and I have to understand that I don't understand all of them. But objectively, would I like to see a world where, you know, you don't force a 10-year-old girl to only see her eyeballs outside every day and she can actually go get educated? Yes. Would I also like to see a world, not taking away free markets, but would I like to see a world where, you know, a fucking 18-year-old isn't shaking her ass for $5 on the internet? You know, naked on OnlyFans? Yeah, I'd like to see that too. But the slippery slope of stopping that is now free speech. So I understand how complicated it gets. It's just, we should be able to have these conversations like, yes, Saudi Arabia, women should be able to drive, you know, and it shouldn't be like, they're being hateful of this religion or Islamophobic. It's like, no, I'm being 2025.
Totally. And this isn't the first time this insight's been made, but I think especially some of those cultural critiques that you brought up, the people who often defend those cultures most fiercely are the ones whose values are most contradicted by that culture. I think the elephant in the room would be sort of like the way women can dress in some Muslim cultures across the world, or whether they can get educated, or how they're like, you can't interview people in each of like the Arab majority places we've been. And so, and it's interesting that the people who defend them are often people who also hold dearest to them ideals of feminism and whatnot. So I'm always like, that's kind of a contradiction that's been pointed out for a while. And I don't think everyone's ever like solved it. or I don't know how much self-awareness there often is. I think it's almost like the enemy of an enemy is a friend in some cases, where there's like this alliance where they don't like the OG, order, white man, old, all that. And so they're kind of like, you're not on that team. So even if we don't agree on core things, you're not them. So
fuck the patriarchy, but we love Islam. Yeah. It's like, run that again. Run that again. My favorite's like the Nike hijab ads.
Yes.
I'm like,
right.
You can make them, but maybe think about some of your other values that you supposedly have, or is that just a business decision?
Totally.
And I love Nike. I rock Nike all the time. I'm not one of these people that gives a fuck about that stuff.
I totally agree.
I'm watching it and I'm like, when all the people are going to get angry about that out here, the people whose job it is to get angry on the internet, it's like, all right, you could have seen that one coming,
Totally. I think it's funny that people talk about now in the U.S. all the time, right? Or like Canada, any of these Western countries you hear now, it's like the, kind of like the leftist Islamist alliance. Like you hear people talk about this kind of stuff. It's not new though. I mean, like Iran when the Iranian Revolution happened, it was exactly that. I mean, it was leftists and Islamists, and then the Islamists killed the leftists after they took power or sent them abroad. That's why a huge number of the Iranians in the U.S. are leftists, communists, whoever, who fled after the Islamists turned on them back then. Yep. So it's it's not new, and it's interesting why that happens. I guess both are. I don't know if you on either end of the spectrum, both are kind of like revolutionary forces, and then in the middle, it's you could say that like Islamists in Iran, revolutionary force, leftists they're real Marxist, communist, revolutionary force, and then both going against the status quo, which was embodied by conservatives. So it's the same. It's a great point. It's a similar thing that just plays out in each place after each place. We just got back. Our videographer and I just went to Canada last week. We were talking to people there.
Sorry to hear that.
Dude, Canada.
Is she Katy Perry while you're there?
No, she was out with Justin Trudeau in Italy at the time. God, people hate Trudeau.
How did he win again? Like last time, I know he resigned now, but how does he win?
That's what I kept asking. I'm like, Frost. It sounds like the people despise him. How did Pierre Poilievre lose and the Liberals win?
I mean, I think the short answer is Trump.
Yeah,
like what Trump did in Canada, patriotism is on the left. It's not like the U.S. where it's on the right. Like here, like if you wave a flag, you're probably conservative. In Canada, that might be, so you see someone out there like put on their American flag T-shirt. It's like a safe bet they voted for Trump.
Get rid of that. That needs to not be a political statement.
I know,
crazy.
But it's
apologizing on the 4th of July. If you do that, it's typically from the left. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, and I do think it's shifting a bit now because a lot of people on the left, I think, have kind of realized you don't want to give away that to the right. But in Canada, it's like I was talking to someone recently, a couple months ago. It was like a professor from Canada. And he was saying that, you got to understand, I interviewed him for a story you wrote about the election in Canada and how Pierre lost. And he said that you got to understand in Canada, people, like the national idea is largely like we're a more progressive version of America. So therefore, when you wave the Canadian flag, you're waving it for a bigger welfare and it's, for a more left version of the U.S. So when Trump did all this stuff saying 51st state, this and that, the people who benefit from the flag waving is on the left there. And I will say it's crazy. Everywhere you go in Canada, the number of Canadian flags, the We Are Canada, the Proud Canadian, it's everywhere. I mean, you would think, someone there is saying they're like, you guys are in a fascist state right now. They kept saying this kind of stuff to me. I was like, well, you see way more flags in Canada. Like if one sign of fascism is like the amount of flag waving, it would certainly be Canada. Everyone, we're the best. We heard it over and over again. We're the best country on earth. We're, we are this, we are that. Canadians this, Canadians that. In a way that like you don't really hear. I mean, Americans, a lot of people, they say, well, we're the best, whatever. But you don't drive down there. You go past a dollar store and have in big letters outside of it, "Stand with Canada."
Yeah,
like
it's also. Do you think a piece of it is the fact that there's? I don't remember. There is a term for this. I can't remember it, but there's like a bias of the monotony of having been the top dog. What I mean by that is there's a way better term for that. But what I mean by that is America's been like #1 GDP economically world power for so long that generationally as it goes on, you tend to turn inward on yourself, like every quote unquote empire has. Whereas Canada, you know, they've been doing fine, but it's not like they've been the world power. So there's a piece of them that's looking up and trying to go up. And so they feel that national pride regardless of what side of the aisle it's on. Versus in America, there's people who, and this can be the right and the left, by the way, but who are looking inward and going, I don't like anything I see here. And they feel less of a sense of nationalism because we've been on top for so long that now we only have something to attack that is ourselves.
I think that's definitely part of it. Also, I should say before, when I say like waving a flag means I don't think it, but to somebody who says they're a nationalist in the U.S. is probably a conservative.
Oh,
and I'd say in Canada, I don't think that's necessarily true.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that Trudeau did, and one of the reasons that, you know, he was able to keep winning and stay in power for so long, despite the fact that he was so unpopular, is because he tapped into this Canadian national. What you just said, I think the image that he put forward, even though a lot of people didn't like his policies and stuff like that, it was like, we are this like suave, cosmopolitan country that takes care of people and everyone wants to come here, and look at Trump in the US and look at those backwards Americans and even Joe Biden, this old whatever, and we've got this. And I think for a lot of people there, it made them, they were the outward looking country and they felt that. But we were only in Southern Ontario, so I can't talk about all of Canada. But man, some of the stuff you see that we're working on the first video right now from the city, London. We went because a bunch of our readers DM'd us on
like the Canada, London.
London, Ontario, which is a big city, hundreds of thousands of people. Our readers DM'd us, like, you guys got to come here and see the open drug use. So we went, and it was like Kensington. It was like
Kensington.
Dude, every downtown in Southern Ontario looks like Kensington.
No way.
I mean, the videos.
Is the scale there?
In the ones that are big enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I went for a run. We were in another city, Hamilton. It was like the Pittsburgh of Ontario, and checked in the Airbnb. It was getting dark. I went for a run. Dude, the whole time I was running, I was getting screamed at. I mean, people were just on the street like screaming at me as I ran by. I mean, it was
Why?
weird.
Were they just like get away, or were they
No,
like?
dude, it's like it'd be like going on a run through Kensington.
Yeah.
You know, like people
Not
are
a great
just
place to go for a run.
not where you want to be. No. I can't say it wasn't that bad. I mean, it's a smaller city.
Although you wouldn't want to slow down. That's the one good side of running there.
Yeah.
Like you would not, you know.
No,
keep
yeah,
it
No,
up.
you're gonna get your miles in at a good pace.
Your miles
for sure.
in, yeah.
Well, I told them the next day I did that. You
Carry
were
your knife with each stride.
Exactly. Do a run club there. That would be a great place to meet someone.
That's where we're gonna have Zach Pogrob go to Kensington to do an aura app. You know, like actual event. It's all to spread the word of the app. Shout out to our boy Zach for making a great app. If you like running, get the R app. But anyway, yeah. So that's wild. Like, you wouldn't think that Canada would be like that if it's a place that was voting for Trudeau so much. But you know, at the same time, you have to look at the built-in culture considering how long a guy like that was in power. There's something underneath there that has led, like, even people to be like, well, all right, what the fuck, we'll hit it, you know? And they keep putting him in. But now, what was this? So he stepped aside, and then they had an open election, and his, like, the guy who came after him on his side won?
Mark Carney, yeah.
Was that right?
Who is the former?
keep doing it.
He was the head of both, I believe, Canada's central bank and Britain's central bank.
Oh, that's nice.
But that's what I mean. You talk to people there though, and you're like, why did Pierre win? And they say, well, because we needed someone. Or why didn't Pierre win? And it's like, well, because Carney was, you know, a stable voice, and we wanted stability, and we trusted him. And it was a brilliant political move to put him up. I mean, he was, and the first thing he did, he got rid of the carbon tax, which Trudeau put on, which really pissed a lot of people off.
All right.
But yeah, it's just a different political environment in the U.S. It was interesting to learn about for sure. But even in the U.S., every state you go to, you realize this too. Like, the politics are so different. Yeah. Right. You go to Florida. We just got back from Florida, and you go to California. Right. It's like you're dealing with totally different. I mean, they are. They effectively are. Their politics are so unique each place you go in the country. But
yeah, I take a passport to Florida.
Yeah.
Well, what was?
Well, we don't read that, so we're like, all right, the picture looks good, but dude, go ahead, buddy.
What was the travel advice? The Florida travel advisor?
Oh yeah, the NAACP. This is when we think of examples of the media's out of touchness, the establishment's out of touchness. One that just we come back to is the NAACP issued a travel advisory to Florida. And I think it was for black people and gays at one point. It was certainly, and so you look at this and you're like, hold on. Have these people been to Miami? Have they been? I interviewed a drag queen in Brooklyn who said her favorite place to go. It was a date. No, but I interviewed her, and she said her favorite place to hang out in the country, no joke, was Miami. That's where they said the best. So it's like this idea of
Me too.
You can put him with you. It's like if you think you can put this blanket over a state as complex as Florida, and yes, it's moved red. It's no longer the bellwether state. It is more safely Trump and DeSantis territory, but at the same time, it is unbelievably diverse. And you could break down Florida into multiple states. The Panhandle's Alabama, Miami's little Havana, and then you go to Naples, that's the Midwest, and you go to rural country, and it's a total. So, anyways, I just think that anytime they simplify and give this general view, so that was just one of those examples of the travel, and you're just like, you've got to be kidding me. You are so painfully out of touch. You know nothing, and you probably issued this travel advisory from Vermont, which is 99% white, whereas Florida is one of the most diverse states in the country, one of the most diverse places in the world. So you just see that, and you're just like, you're out of touch, and it's a disservice to everyone who's, it just so misunderstands the country.
Hey guys, if you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It's a huge, huge help. Thank you.
You know what one of my least favorite maps ever to look at is?
Which one?
When they do a map of the electorate of the entire country with the red and blue dots for a presidential election.
Huh. Why is
because
that?
if a county goes 51-49 Democrat or 51-49 Republican, it's not like a mix of reddish and blue. It's full red or it's full blue.
Yeah.
And they simplify this into a binary color code so that your mind goes to, oh yeah, that county in Kansas, there's not one Democrat that lives there. Oh yeah, Philadelphia, there's not one Republican that lives there. These things aren't true. This is a complicated thing, but we try to, I guess, oversimplify everything. Usually I like simplifying things, but not on that front. And when you guys are out there getting these videos, that's the nice thing. Like, so I want to get into your backstory in a minute here, but the thing that made old like pre-Soros Vice great was that they were going on the ground just to capture what was happening. This is it. Might be crazy, might be normal, might be somewhere in between, but they're going to capture what's happening, and you were learning about all these different cultures and subcultures across the country and why people might have a fucking different set of beliefs living in Kansas than me living right here, And that's what you guys are kind of capturing now. Like I see some of that magic happening, and I see it on some other channels too who have clearly thought about it the same way you guys have, which is like we missed that. Yeah. And it's great to see. So just to get to it so that people, they've been hearing you talk now for a while and get an idea. But you guys are RocaNews, Ride the News. Yes. You started off on Instagram. I'm gonna have you tell the whole story, but you got 1.7 million over there where you do a lot of news content, and now over the last year you've also moved over to YouTube where you're doing some great hard-hitting on-the-ground documentary content. So you've been at this for 5 years. Congrats on anniversary. That's awesome.
Thank you, brother.
Where'd you guys come from besides Delco? Like
and Langley.
Langley and Delco by way of Langley. But where'd you guys come from? How did you end up here? What's the story?
You want to take it? Start off?
Sure. I mean, we worked together in D.C. Worked at a think tank that a lot of your viewers are likely to know, the American Enterprise Institute. So
can we pull up the board of the American Enterprise Institute? Let's play a game real fast before you go on.
And make sure to hit the reptilian section just so we get them.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like I'm going to see a lot of names I know.
I don't even know who all is on the board now.
Yeah, that's exactly what you would say. All right. Peter Coors. Head of Molson Coors. Harlan Crow. Sounds like he's got old family money. Crow Holdings.
He's a Texas guy.
Ravenel Curry. I just respect him for going through life with that name. Dick DeVos. All right. So I imagine that's one of the DeVosses. It's probably that's what's her name?
Betsy DeVos's
husband, maybe. Okay.
Telly Friedman, I think he's a private equity guy.
Yeah, a lot of capitals in here.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of hedge fundies. The retired CEO of American Express.
Yeah.
Bill Haslam, former governor of Tennessee, whose brother owns the Browns, does a terrible job.
The Jimmy D. Haslam. Yeah, I forgot about that.
That looks like a who's who here. I'm not seeing horrible ones jump off the board, but definitely a who's
Well,
who.
AI is interesting because
Ross Perot Jr. I didn't know he was.
staging the third party round. All right, we're going to do it
That's
this time. It's AI is an interesting place. So we met there and we hosted. It was our. Well, you worked in India, but then you came there. You applied to think tanks, and then ended up at.
Why
AI.
did you apply to think tanks?
I wanted to do foreign policy work, and when I was in India doing, whatever I was doing, I just wanted to go over there and get the experience of living abroad, right? And while I was there, I actually did some like writing and stuff like that, and then I wanted to come back to the U.S. and just get a job. And it's like, if you're interested in doing foreign policy work, I didn't want to work for government, so I just applied to everything I could find in D.C., which is think tanks, and I applied to pretty much all of them. And AEI was the one that took me.
Okay.
Do India research. I was was graduating college 2018, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had a weird political history too. And this is one thing that inspired Roca, where it's nonpartisan news, and part of it's my own background, my extended family. It's very bipartisan. In college, I was a Democrat, but by the end of it, the campus free speech stuff had fired me up, and so I wasn't really a Democrat. And I was always into news and politics and everything, and so I applied to a few different places in DC as well. And I loved AEI's president at the time, Arthur Brooks. He's now like a happiness guru. You'll see him on Reels. He'll do stuff like, in your 30s, you should be doing this and treat your life as a startup. He's changed his tone. It used to be, he was like, he thought, he was a big free market advocate. And he was like, free markets have made the world a more prosperous place. We only hear about inequality. And I don't know how much.
Oh, I've seen this guy.
Yeah, this guy, Arthur
Yeah.
Brooks. He was the president at the time, and then he left 6 months in. But
Got off the sinking ship.
yeah. But AI was in a weird spot because it's very establishment, which was itself eye-opening for us, seeing a little more how DC
place
works.
establishment.
It's very much, but it was also stuck in this in-between land of, it was conservative, and it was also the place where the architects of the Iraq War sort of worked, and also, which, it's a little bit like being part of the Cracker Barrel rebranding agency now in terms of popular. So it's not a great look. But I do believe in a lot of their, it was kind of like this more moderate think tank, and now it was kind of never Trump, and so it's in this weird land now, and it's lost its influence in many ways. But yeah, so we were hosting the podcast, so that's not the best ad for AI we just gave, but we have frustrations there. There are good people there, but like
Good people, all neocons, send them all to prison. Anyway, continue.
There's certainly.
You built the podcast there? Is that what you were just saying?
So we
Did I miss
took
that?
we both had like our day jobs essentially, and then us and a third guy, one of our best friends still to this day. The three of us essentially got tapped to take over their podcast. So they had this podcast that they were doing for a while, and no one was listening to it. And we took it over. It was like they didn't even care. They didn't care about it. So yeah, they wanted someone to take it over. The people who were doing it were leaving or something. So we just started doing it, having on guests. We'd have a lot of authors that we liked and stuff like that. Anyone who was around the DC area wanted to talk to, we bring them in.
Were you doing it in like the conference room at AEI?
No, they had a nice studio actually.
Oh, that's nice.
They're not lacking for money,
Yeah.
But the
you saw that board.
Yeah.
so we did that and it grew. I mean, it went from like 500 listeners, like 5,000 listeners in the span of like 2 months, and we were starting to get fired up, and actually we
Super fired up.
we were like, we were ready to go with it, and then essentially we had some guests on that people in there didn't really like.
Like who?
Who are the Mooch?
We had a couple. The Mooch. Remember the guy who was fired from Trump after 11 days? He was like
Scaramucci.
Scaramucci.
Oh, they didn't like him.
We had on Andrew Sullivan, who is a gay British writer who
I know
we
Andrew
read every
Sullivan.
week,
Yeah.
and he was also very critical of the Iraq War, and he smoked weed in the studio, which I don't think has been public until now, and he drank Jaeger. So I think he wanted to kind of shoot a bird. He was like, all right, I'll come to AEI. They hate me there, but I'll go to the basement. We'll do it. And then I think he kind of wanted to shoot a bird. He's like, bring some drink and weed. Anyways, he's great. Anyways, we interviewed people, and they were kind of, and AEI is a place, and this is true of DC in general, where even though we weren't like ranting on it, we were simply asking questions. Like if you listen to the old just asking questions, a popular phrase today, but we were part of it. But no, in the sense that we were not giving opinions, we were not spouting anything. It was just they were like these young kids.
You're platforming all these people.
You get the platform verb, but it was also like these two shouldn't have a platform.
Yeah, and
we were the problem.
I think all like bigger politics aside or whatever that comes with that, it was I mean, dude, the people there are academics, right? And academics are notoriously like, they want to protect what's theirs. They want the credit. They want this and that. And what happened with us, honestly, was they wanted to get their hands in it. And this happened in like February. We were supposed to go to the, what was it? We were going to the Iowa caucus.
Yeah.
In February 2020?
Or sorry, yeah, the Iowa caucus.
Of February 2020.
Yeah.
We had set up meetings. Ironically, it paved the way. This is what we ended up doing later with mayors across the country on the way out there and back, and like places like Cleveland and Pittsburgh, all these places. And then within a week of us supposed to go, days before we were going to leave, we got essentially told it wasn't ours anymore, and other people wanted to take it. So then the pandemic hit, and we essentially put our heads together like a month after that, and we're like, what are we going to do now? And both of us were also thinking from this, we're like, there's a ceiling here, there's ideological constraints, there's all sorts of stuff. So then that's when the idea for Roca came, was April 2020.
What does Roca mean, by the way?
So I got to give a shout out to our third co-founder, Billy Carney, who is my best friend from college. He was doing banking here at the time, didn't love his job, was in the pit, and we always wanted to start something. And he's less of a news junkie than us, but he's got like great instincts for media and all that. And he's also half Brazilian. And so we originally were going to be Pluto because we wanted this like outside the establishment.
Rejected by the establishment.
Rejected by the establishment. And sort of we love the symbol of a planet. Turns out the Disney lawyers aren't the nicest people, and they have a trademark for anything. If you have anything in entertainment with Pluto, you go after it. It infringes on their Pluto the dog
How the
trademark.
Fuck does, the
Dude,
dog?
literally, the dog. And so,
What if I say Pluto the planet?
yeah, I know.
You're done
I don't
for.
get it. You're done. No, but if you're in media entertainment, that's where the trademark. So our lawyer, and we found him anyways, trademark lawyer, shout out Jake Ward. He was like, you gotta get rid of this name. And so we start panicking. We're gonna launch in a month. We all just quit our jobs. Our parents are like, what are you doing? And then we go to this, Billy's remembers this wave that goes up the Amazon twice a year called the Poor Roca. And we liked it because it was also a symbol like a planet. Instead of a planet, it's a wave. It goes against the current and it unites people from around the world. And we just like the symbol of something nature related. So we go with it. Poor Roca is a little clunky. We go with Roca. And so that's the name. And that's still our thing. Ride the wave. And
that's where it comes from.
That's where it comes from. It's the Roca wave. So,
but I think the other thing too. So in this period, April 2020, we had the idea for this. The first thing we did, like a few weeks later, we got in the car. We did a road trip around. I mean, it was early June. It was George Floyd time.
Yeah,
hell of a time.
Dude, George Floyd, June, pandemic, hell of a time to take a road trip. And we went to Pittsburgh, Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And we just went around just talking to people, and we're like, "What do you want from news? What do you want? What do you want here?" And I mean, that part of the country has become kind of like our North Star in a lot of ways. And we go there all the time. We shoot video. We love shooting videos in that part of the
North
country.
Star.
Because you look there, it's totally undercovered by the media.
Totally.
It's totally stereotyped. The issues in the country that really matter, a lot of them are playing out in those places, right? And everyone's like, "Oh, it's West Virginia. They have opioids." Okay. Now, I mean, the opioid issue subsequently became a national issue. One of the biggest, I mean, more people die from, opioids now in a year than.
And how about who fucking put them there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So going out there, I think, was eye-opening for us. I mean, just to talk to these people, understand like essentially what they wanted from news. So then when we got back from that trip, we essentially were like, okay, we got to figure out how to deliver news to the people in Pittsburgh and Columbus, not to the people in DC. So that was that. And for us, I mean, I'm from I'm from a small town upstate New York, like 4 hours north of here, not exactly a coastal place. And two grew up in Tallahassee, another place, Western Pennsylvania.
Well, that's what he says.
Yeah. Delco.
I really think those accents all came together. Sometimes a little Southern twang will come out, but I think it just merges. And I'm a Delco, even though I do not approve of these coasters.
You don't like those
Unbelievable.
coasters.
I'm a Steelers guy.
Yeah,
But
you're in an Eagles household.
yeah,
so.
sorry about that. But anyways, please proceed. So,
So in essence, we wanted to get back to our roots and like do news for that, and that's what Roca came out of. So August 2020, we launched it. We put up a website that no one went to. But then after like 5 or 6 months, we started to figure out how to do Instagram, and we put up a story in January 2021 on the GameStop trading frenzy.
Oh, interesting. So you were doing all like through old school through the website for
yeah.
the first 5, 6 months.
We basically imitate. We were basically like I think the combination of COVID, our experience in DC, and our long-standing frustrations with the news landscape.
Yeah.
We were kind of fired up against the establishment, to say the least. But the irony is, when we launched, we essentially imitated every legacy media company. We hired a small staff of writers who were all over the spectrum. We literally.
Which one?
What was that? Yeah, no.
They're all autistic.
They were all- I'm a little slow. You heard Tallahassee. I'm a little slow. I'm still figuring out who Bin Laden is and whether he went to school in England. I don't know what I was thinking of. I swear I saw him as a kid in like English summer camp. But anyways, I don't know who that was. Anyways, but so we were kind of peak frustration with the establishment. So we had this tone that was anti-establishment, but we hadn't really reached the people we were trying to reach. And our target market was people who are just sick of the polarization. They don't really like the establishment. They don't really trust either side of the media. And they just want to live happy lives. They like going out with their friends, or normal people, the people who have no home in certainly the media landscape of 2020, where it was even more dominated by newspapers and cable news.
Sure.
Now there's more options, but we've kind of forget, dude, at that point, I mean, during COVID, Fox and CNN, some people went to Twitter, but it had different ownership then, more limited in terms of the range of narratives you could get. So anyways, we had this whole vision, but we initially started distributing it in traditional ways. And then we kind of had a breakthrough on Instagram, reaching that person who's 28, who, like, we had a persona early on. And this came from also going to Columbus, of like being on Ohio State's campus. Like, somebody who went to Ohio State. It's a good school, very good school in the Midwest, but it's also like a national brand. You have a lot of normal people go there, and you know where they get their news a few years after graduating. That was our target market. So
And you know what else is interesting? You're coming into this at a time, I don't know, I just relate to this a lot, where you were coming from the establishment world, literally being in a think tank.
Yes.
And seeing like some of the cool kids playing on stuff on the outside, not necessarily with straight up news, but with this kind of independent streak. And you're like, oh, now how can we turn that into news? And you're doing it at a time where like Morning Brew had just gone to sell their company. They had invented this very simple 3 to 5 minute newsletter that, a fucking kindergartner could read, that gives you an idea about finance, is a little bit more Gen Z, millennial focused. And you're like, okay, let's do that, combining CNN and Fox.
Totally.
That's interesting.
Totally. You know, it's so funny. Our experience in DC was one of the most informative things for us. And in one sense, I don't think that, a lot of the people there are, DC can be corrupting and also intoxicating, which isn't probably been a big surprise. I think a lot of people don't go in there. And I think you also see the humanity of a lot of the people you read headlines about, and they're probably less of supervillains, or maybe they're really good at hiding it. I don't know. But the incentives of DC and the way it works, it really is one giant cocktail party in many ways.
That's a great way to put it.
People want to be invited back. They don't want to upset the establishment. And frankly, we occupied a world that, not directly, and again, they didn't do it as some cynical master plan, or at least most of the people, but they created the void that we saw in the Rust Belt, or certainly that consensus, and they didn't really think about it. They didn't really care that in 2023, 108,000 people died of drug overdoses in the U.S., 3/4 of which were opioids, and they're concentrated in states where industry fled.
Because they can't see it.
They can't see it. And again, I think what some people in our new independent media get wrong is they probably make the people in DC into more of a Disney villains than they are. I think a lot of them are more like model UN, ambitious. They just got into these positions of power. Some are bad. I think there are some, don't get me wrong. I also am not taking this naive world of, they're just all nice and they shake your hand and they smile and therefore they're good. But I don't think they're the people who created messes and benefit. I think they're self-interested. And look at the incentive system. Look at the bloat of DC. Look at the think tank world. It's a comfortable world. People get paid well. 5 of the 7 wealthiest counties in the country by median household income are bordering DC. That's insane. And because it is such a comfortable ecosystem, nobody wants to challenge the status quo. Nobody wants to upset it.
Well, do you agree, Max?
Yeah, I think there's 2 other interesting things at play here. Like, to get there, I mean, a lot of these people, for context, like at a place like AEI, the average junior staffer, people that we were, having lunch with each day, they're mostly progressive. Like it's just like young people anywhere.
You'd be shocked.
It's not like very few people go there because they're like, I'm a young libertarian, so I'm going to go to this conservative think tank.
Yeah.
It's much more like, I want to get to DC. I'm interested in this topic. I want to spend all day reading about what's going on in this place or with this field. So they go. But if you think about like the two main, so like the term neocon, right? Or like with econ, kind of like the classical economic stuff. There's like this, I studied foreign affairs and I studied economics in college. With both those things, the classical theory for both of them is essentially the same. I mean, if you go through, I went to the University of Virginia. If you went through the University of Virginia and you tried to put forward an alternative economic theory or an alternative foreign policy theory, you're not going to do well in school. If you don't do well in school, you're not going to go get a good job in DC. So it self-selects for people who really believe this stuff. And then you believe it. So say you major in econ, you go get a job as an econ researcher at a think tank like Brookings or AEI or whatever. And then you go through, you start churning out op-eds, articulating these things, you get promoted, you move up, you get tapped for government, you go through the whole thing. If you start writing about how manufacturing needs to come back through tariffs, you're gone. And it's just because that doesn't align. And that's not the way you get forward. So I think some of it is, and it's the same with foreign policy. It's like if you want to start talking about how the U.S. shouldn't be involved in Israel, Ukraine, or whatever, same exact thing. I mean, you're going against this like really rigid intellectual thing.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.